Hi everybody, this is Erica, and I wanted to talk about skincare tips I wish I had known sooner. So I am 50 years old, so I've definitely learned my lesson on certain things. I've done some things very much right, and some things I wish I had done a lot sooner. So in my kind of mid to late 20s, I really started to get into like a pretty regimented skincare routine where I was using retinoids and wearing sunscreen all the time. And I don't even know how I knew this, because like back in like the 90s we really weren't really being educated on stuff like that, but I started doing that. But what I did do wrong was I focused on my face, and I can definitely see the difference now that I'm 50 between my face and my neck. And so when I watch those YouTube videos and women are putting sunscreen on their face and they stop at the face and don't bring it down to their neck, I just like cringe, because I'm like, oh, in 10, 15 years, you're going to so regret this, that you just are not paying attention to your neck. So anything that you do to your face, you want to bring down to your neck and to your décolleté. So you almost want to think of your face as going all the way down here. And I did not think of that, and I was focused on just my face, and I can definitely see the difference in how my face has aged versus how my neck has aged. Now, I've done a lot to repair it. People who do watch this channel will know that I lost 90 pounds in a year, and I had a lot of crepiness and things like that from the weight loss. And it was all in my neck, and I've virtually healed it, almost completely healed it, and it's almost undetectable now that I went through a dramatic weight loss in the neck area. And I was really surprised, because I thought, when I first looked at my neck after the weight loss, I thought the only thing that's going to fix this would be a neck lift. But I've gotten my neck to the point where I'm comfortable, showing it and things like that. If someone wants to see a dedicated routine, kind of skincare video on what I did to my neck, I can do that, but that's kind of a separate topic. But yes, I would have definitely focused on my neck a lot more, and the décolleté area as well. And I was an 80s kid. We didn't really know about sunscreen, but I wish that my parents and my mother had thought about sunscreen. I think because we were dark skinned, and they just kind of thought that I was immune to any, I pretty much was immune to sunburns. But I kind of think about like all of the sun damage that we accumulate, and most of it occurs before we turn 20. So I would have wished that my parents had applied sunscreen and we were more conscious of it back in the 80s. And I would have not been so harsh on my skin kind of when I was younger. I had terrible acne, and the solution in the like late 80s, early 90s was like Stridex and Seabreeze, and I don't know if anyone can remember those days, but it was just, we were putting a lot of harsh alpha hydroxys on our skin, and that really, I just remember just kind of making things worse. And now I know, as an esthetician, like all of the damage that was being done. It's not really visible now. I don't have adult acne, knock on wood, but I really wish I'd learned earlier to not be so hard on your skin. Your skin is really just, it really, the skin barrier can really be disrupted. You basically can make acne worse by being so harsh on your skin. So definitely would have changed that. I mean, we are so much more knowledgeable now about how to treat acne and things like that, that it's just kind of the era that I grew up in. I would have been more conscious earlier of the mind-body and kind of the inner health connection with skin. So our skin is an organ. It's an organ like any other organ in our body. It's just on the outside and it's visible to us, but it is a reflection of our inner health. So it's a reflection of our mental health. It's a reflection of how well we're taking care of ourselves, what we're eating, what we're doing to ourselves. If we're drinking, if we're smoking, if we're doing any of that kind of stuff, our skin is going to reflect all of that back. So if you're not taking care of your inner health, if you're not eating, very nutrient dense diet, if you're not, your gut health is bad, all those kinds of things are going to show up on your skin. So I would have been a lot more conscious. Not the most important reason would be for health reasons, but also for skin reasons. So I would have been a lot more conscious about how much sugar I was ingesting, how many processed foods I was ingesting. I've gotten a lot better about it since going on like weight loss and health journey. But I wasn't when I was, like in my early 20s and things like that. You just don't have that, you don't necessarily have that kind of insight into how your skin is a reflection of your internal health. I would have gotten into aesthetics a lot sooner. This is a little bit, again, going off topic, but that really was my passion, was the beauty industry and aesthetics. And I went into a field that I was totally uninterested in, which was finance. And I mean, I started out in journalism and then I went into finance, but I always was like focused on kind of the looks good on paper jobs. But I really would have followed my passion a lot sooner in life. I didn't go into aesthetics until my 40s. And it's been a ramping up process and continues to be a ramping up process, and it's harder when you're older to get yourself established. Not always, but it can be. And so I would have really pursued my passion much younger, and I think I would have been, much more established in something that I was actually passionate about, because as I've gotten older, I've learned how important it is to actually really enjoy and find meaning in your career. So that is very pivotal in just basically your overall sense of happiness in life. I would have been more, just more into, not so much like the retinoids and things like that, but really protecting my skin health, my barrier health. And I would have, definitely, just been not so aggressive about the retinoids. I was really, really aggressive about those starting from a young age. And I think my skin is better for it now, but retinoids are very aggressive on the skin. And you do sometimes take a mentality that the more the better, or the more you're doing it the better, or the more you're applying the better. But less is more with retinoids. I mean, when they say, a pea size drop, they mean a pea size drop on your face. And I would have brought my skincare down to my neck. So I didn't start doing that until maybe 10 years ago, but I would have started a lot sooner. So those are the things that I would have done differently with my skin. Things that I wish I had known sooner. If I was to give someone like a starter kit as a teen, it would be, I've gotten clients who've brought their like 12-year-old daughters into me, and they wanted their daughters to get on a skincare routine. But, a starter kit for a very young teen has nothing to do with anti-aging. It's not going to prevent her from aging later in life. It's just going to be, it's going to screw up her skin barrier. It's just really not good. And putting the message on a young teen that, that it's so important to prevent aging is really not a healthy message. So if I were to just put a starter kit together for someone who's very young starting out in skincare, it would definitely be a broad spectrum sunscreen, a gentle face wash, a light moisturizer, and then possibly, an essence or a toner. And that's it. It's the starter kit that's like less than $50. You don't need to spend anything ridiculous. I mean, when I was working at Sephora, there were young teens buying Drunk Elephant, and it was just like, the polypeptide serum and things like that. So I would have been, I guess I would have been kinder to my skin. I would have been gentler with my skin. And I'm pretty happy with the way it looks now at 50, but there was definitely a period where I was very harsh on my skin and just almost trying to beat it into submission and get it to try to look a certain way. But your skin is really ultimately going to be a reflection of your emotional health, your physical health, and also the topicals you put on. But we put so much focus on the topicals that we put on our skin that we don't realize that, you know, our daily lifestyle habits, whether we're drinking too much, whether we're doing drugs, whether we're doing any of those kinds of things, or we're eating a lot of processed foods, those things are all going to show back up on our skin. So, all right, those are my tips. Have a great day. Bye.